The cool girl monologue. If you have read Gone Girl, you know it. Most people remember it as Amy Dunne saying something true, a declaration, a woman naming something real. Go back and read it again. She is confessing really, telling Nick and telling you exactly what she has been doing for years deliberately. And that's not what strength looks like. Hi, I'm Andrea, the founder of Bibisco, the novel writing software downloaded by more than 200,000 writers around the world. And by the end of this video, you'll have a way to build a character with that kind of interior logic before you write the first scene, not after 3 drafts. Let's start with what everyone says about Flynn. Strong female characters. Amy Dunne, strong. Camille Pricker, strong but broken. Libby Day, a survivor. It's not a wrong reading, exactly. It's just not the one that explains how these novels actually work. Amy Dunne isn't strong, she is a performer. She builds a version of herself, the cool girl, the perfect wife, so completely that her own husband doesn't know who the real Amy is. And she knows it. The cool girl monologue isn't empowerment, it's an admission. She's being lying and she's telling you about it, and most people read it as a manifesto. Camille Pricker carves words into her own skin because it's the only form of control she has when her body, her memories, her family all feel like they belong to someone else. Libby Day built her entire identity around a testimony she gave as a child, something she believed, something she still in some way needs to believe. So none of these women is quite what it looked like. At first, it looks like Flynn is interested in damage, in what happens to women under sustained pressure. But read all 3 novels, or even 2 of them, and something else becomes clear. Every Flynn character carries 2 versions of themselves, what they show and what they have arranged their whole life around. Sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Amy performs, and she knows she performs. Camille uses pain to maintain a kind of order. Libby holds onto a story that someone else partly wrote for her. Some of them are lying deliberately. Amy is clear-eyed about what she's doing. Some aren't. Nick Dunne doesn't understand his own behavior. Libby genuinely believes her own testimony. The gap between who they appear to be and who they actually are, that's where Flynn's novels live. That's the engine underneath all 3. Most writers assume Flynn is a masterful plotter. The twists are so precise, so inevitable, that you imagine a blueprint behind everything. There isn't one. Flynn, as I said, she can't outline. She starts with a sense of where she's going and doesn't end up there. She's tried to outline. It doesn't work for her. She never sticks to it. In Sharp Objects, her first novel, the murderer wasn't in the first draft. She had a completely different killer. Realized it felt wrong, went back and found she had been playing with a character who had been there all along. The real killer had been present in what she had already written, waiting. She describes writing roughly 2 books for everyone that gets published. Wrong paths, chapters that go nowhere, starting over. The twists emerge from the characters, from what those specific people with those specific contradictions were always going to do. And that's why reading a Flynn novel feels different from most thrillers. You reach the revelation and something settles, rather than surprises. Like the story was always moving toward that point, because it was already inside those people. There's a moment in the cool girl monologue, Amy says she's been performing for so long she's not sure she could stop, even if she wanted to. That's the deeper structure. These characters don't just hide something. They have organized their entire understanding of themselves around something that isn't quite true. A specific and private belief that drives everything they do, and eventually cracks under pressure. Amy believes she is in control of her own performance, but the performance is what controls her. Camille believes she can manage pain by directing it, but that system keeps pain managed, not processed. Libby believes she survived by telling the truth. What she told was a story shaped by fear, by what the adults around her needed to her. Those are contradictions rather than flaws. The kind of contradictions that make everything that follows in the plot feel like it was always going to happen once you can see them. If this way of thinking about characters is useful for you, not just for reading Flynn, but for writing, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps other writers find these conversations. So the problem with a flat character, the kind that doesn't surprise you, the kind that functions but doesn't feel alive, is usually not that you haven't given them enough backstory or a more interesting external content, is that they don't have a contradiction. They have traits, maybe a flaw, but there isn't something they believe about themselves that isn't quite true, something that shapes their behavior in ways they don't fully see. That's what gives a character interior life, the gap between what they believe and what's actually true about them, and the fact that that gap is doing real work in the story. To find this contradiction, you need to understand three things: what the character needs, what they are afraid of, and what they have told themselves about the space between those two things. When those three are in tension, when the need and the fear and the belief are pulling against each other, the character starts to move on their own. Decisions become clearer, scenes find their direction, the ending stops feeling arbitrary. This is how Bibisco helps you build characters like Flynn's. When you create a character in Bibisco, you go through an interview, sections on psychology, on how they relate to other people, on what drives them, on how they see themselves, a specific section for their conflict, another for how they change or fail to change across the story. That structure isn't arbitrary. It's the same interior logic Flynn spent years reconstructing through writing and rewriting. With Bibisco, you are not guessing at these things mid-draft. You are building them out before the story starts. There are also mind maps for the moments when the interior life of a character isn't linear, when it's a web of relationships, contradictions, and unresolved things that don't fit neatly into a sequence. That's what Flynn arrived at through years of writing and rewriting. Bibisco is where you built it first. The difference between a character who haunts readers and one who just functions in the plot is usually this: whether there's something they believe about themselves that isn't quite true, and whether that belief is doing real work in the story. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be honest. When you have that, when the contradiction is visible before you start, something changes in how you write. You hesitate less at the moments when a character has to make a choice. You move through scenes more directly. You are not asking what would this person do. You already know, because you understand what they need, what they fear, and what they have told themselves to hold those two things together. If you're looking for a novel writing software built around this way of thinking, you can download Bibisco with the link in the description. It's free to start and no credit card is needed. Happy writing and see you in the next video.